It is true, Yahuwah blessed the United States so long as the average citizen lived up to the principles of truth and righteousness in his own individual life. The United States became a haven of refuge, a promised land for many who faced persecution and oppression in the land of their birth. However, Satan had plans for the new nation as well. Very early on, the United States began to reveal a character at great odds with its gentle, lamb-like horns. Washington, D.C. itself is unique among U.S. cities, as it was established by the Constitution to serve as the new nation's capital. George Washington, the country's first post-Revolutionary War president and a 33rd-degree Freemason, selected a fellow Mason, Pierre Charles L'Enfant of France, to design the layout of Washington, D.C. Deliberately designed to contain hidden occult symbolism in the very streets, parks, and placement of buildings, the city is far from being an easily navigable one. The White House, symbol of American government, sits at the apex of an inverted pentagram, shaped from the many diagonal city streets. The square and the compass, longtime symbols of Freemasonry, stretch from the White House to the Capitol building. More recently built, the Pentagon, seat of America's military power, is in the shape of a pentagon, which is the center of a pentagram. Most of the 19th century was consumed with the expansion of America's borders until she became the nation with the world's third largest landmass. By the early 20th century, the foundation of America's global financial domination was laid with the formation of the Federal Reserve on December 23, 1913. This ensured the indentured servitude of generations of Americans, as well as those of other countries whose governments buy America's debt. World War II was extremely advantageous to the American government. At the end of the war, the United States and the Soviet Union divided the spoils of a very technologically advanced Germany, stealing not only military secrets in advanced weaponry, but advanced technology in industry and commerce as well. Under Project Paperclip, many of Germany's leading scientists, most of whom were high-level SS officers, were brought to the United States and formed the basis of today's CIA and NASA. Werner von Braun, former SS officer, served NASA as director of the Marshall Space Flight Center, winning the National Medal of Science in 1975. Even America's terror of the skies, the stealth bomber, was based on a 1944 German design. The Cold War, following World War II, gave the United States a repeated excuse for involvement in international foreign wars, all under the guise of stopping communism. From Korea to Vietnam to the First Gulf War, the late 20th century was filled with growing American aggression. Even various foreign leaders were not exempt from assassination by black ops operatives if their political agendas conflicted with those of the United States. With the end of the Cold War, the American military complex needed a new enemy to fight in its scramble for global dominance. An open secret, acknowledged by many Americans, is the well-documented fact that the horrific acts committed against American citizens on September 11, 2001, were actually an inside job of the American government specifically designed to create a worldwide enemy. The never-to-be-forgotten images of Muslims celebrating the news of the horrific events of that fall morning reveals the worldwide ignorance that this heinous crime was engineered to provide the U.S. and its UN allies the necessary excuse to enter sovereign nations.
Atmosphere, the V sign for victory being displayed in East Jerusalem today among jubilant Palestinians that the United States had been subject to this attack. What are we to make of that, Jennifer? Are we to, Yasser Arafat may issue this condemnation. Look at this. We're seeing people applauding, clapping, smiling, happy to know that thousands of Americans have died in this sneak attack. And there you see a V for victory sign held up to the camera.
The Palestinians were totally shocked by what had happened. Israel immediately started showing footage that were not related to jubilation by Palestinians about the innocent victims of September 11. The footage that they showed is when Palestinians in 1993 went down the streets, gave the soldiers the olive branch, and they were in festivity that peace is round the corner.
In the past, the act of entering a sovereign nation was considered an act of war. Today, under the vague generalization of a war on terror, any government that the U.S. wants to conquer need only be accused of housing or sponsoring terrorists, and the U.S. and her allies invade. The lives of countless civilians in Afghanistan and Iraq have been destroyed by the ravenous beast power of the United States. Radiation poisoning from the depleted uranium weaponry used in the Middle East is a crime against humanity. It affects not only the civilians downwind of U.S. military attacks, but the lives of the U.S. soldiers and their families who have been brainwashed into thinking they are fighting for their country. U.S. military drones are only one of many ways this beast power wields a reign of terror over the world. Some drones fly high above enemy territory, reducing the loss of life among the American military while targeting American enemies. American citizens are not exempt from this intrusive spying. The use of drones within the United States, once dismissed as a conspiracy theory, is now an admitted fact. Privacy is a thing of the past for all who live within the reach of the American government. But drones are only one way the U.S. government exercises despotic control over its citizens and others. Cameras on city streets keep an ever-vigilant watch on citizenry, while powerful Super Cray computers monitor every international and most national phone calls and emails. America, once the sweet land of liberty, is now a ravening beast power against Americans and non-Americans alike. A proliferation of thousands of laws makes the average citizen, unknowingly, a lawbreaker. While Americans cling to the belief their country is still the freest in the world, the fact is the U.S. has the highest prison population per capita in the entire world. Shock drills are conducted by the U.S. military in American cities, training its troops in urban warfare against its own citizens. The U.S. government is taking unprecedented and aggressive action against its own citizens, raiding small businesses and farms, confiscating or destroying inventory, and closing down food co-ops. At the same time, the pharmaceutical companies are gaining ever more power, both in the United States and abroad, outlawing many effective natural health remedies, while pushing drugs and dumbing down the populace regarding the true physical and mental effects of their poisons. The U.S. government uses these powerful pharmaceutical companies in its mad drive for world dominance. it has been widely documented that the AIDS virus in Africa was injected into the native population via free vaccines provided by Western health care workers. Only in eternity will the evil done by and under the influence of this global beast power be seen to its fullest extent. Not only US citizens, but millions worldwide fall victim to the additives and preservatives, the genetically modified foods promoted by the US government and the various entities under its protection. Even fresh foods are irradiated so that the food available is virtually without any nutritional value whatsoever. Soft killing the masses is further carried out by the spraying of chemtrails over NATO countries. The evolution of the United States from a liberty-loving land to the dragon-speaking beast of prophecy has reached unprecedented heights in the use of executive orders. These unconstitutional decrees become law simply by publication in the Federal Registry, with no oversight by Congress. Executive orders in recent years have given the President sweeping powers. Everything from the confiscation of personal property to indefinite imprisonment without trial, and even execution. This gross violation of human rights can be directed at anyone, American citizen or not. The US President can declare any person an enemy combatant, and all enemy combatants can be legally killed. The majority of Americans remain ignorant of the change in their once freedom-guaranteeing government. The controlled media publishes only those stories the government once acknowledged. Those who do know the truth live in fear of this immense power whose reach is global.